Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, welcome to our program. I'd like to start out by congratulating the Imam of our time on today, this amazing occasion, the day of Eid al-Ghadeer, the day that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed Imam Ali alayhi salam as his successor and completed the religion of Islam. Today is the day, as we know, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of everything, all the different things He told us to do, He told us to fast, He told us to read our namaz, everything in Islam. Without today, if Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam hadn't delivered this message, he says that it would all be for nothing. So inshallah, we're going to be talking about that on today's program. We're going to be talking about the significance of the day of Eid al-Ghadeer, and we're going to be talking about how important the day of Eid al-Ghadeer is. Like I mentioned, it's the most important Eid. Out of all of the Eids, out of all the days that we celebrate, the day of Eid al-Ghadeer is the most important, and it has the most significance. And like I mentioned, it's the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed the religion of Islam. And we see that, what was it like before? Before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, before the last messenger, before he delivered the Quran, and he told us about the Ahlul Bayt, and he gave us all these things to do, what was Islam? What was being a believer? What was it? It was to, basically, what we had to do was to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in one God. This was before the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came. So all the people we have, the Jews, the Christians, they all believed in one God. And then during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started to, create the religion of Islam came. And we had these different rules. We had to read our namaz, and there are certain foods that we couldn't have. And we had to fast. We had to do these things. We had to perform Hajj. So this is what happened. And so we look at that product, and we looked at everything our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. And the finished product, like, you're working on something, a company's creating a car. There's part of the car, there's bits and pieces of the car here and there, but only until you have to complete the car. And that's when you'll see the difference. Once the car is complete, you'll see the difference between the finished product and, one of the tests. So, even the Tesla, I remember the Tesla, I think it was, 2 years ago or something. These were like the earlier models. There's a lot of things that were still in development. For example, they couldn't have, you couldn't drive. You could really basically only do the autopilot on, I think it was open roads or something like that. But, you could only do straight, whatever. That was while it was still in development. So now, of course, you can drive on the highway. They can just auto drive wherever you want. You can go on the road, whatever you want to do. So that took time. And so we look at this day of Eid al-Ghadeer, and we see that today was the day that the religion of Islam was completed. So let's get into it. Let's see what's the context surrounding the day of Eid al-Ghadeer. So the day of, basically what was happening is Eid al-Ghadeer took place during Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's farewell pilgrimage. This was the first time that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam got to formally go to Hajj. It was the first time, and it was also the last time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had informed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he didn't have that much time left in this world. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gathered all of his followers. He gathered as many people as he can, and he said that he was going to go to perform the Hajj. And so what happened? We see that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, he was the prophet. He's the example. So if Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam does something, the way that he does certain things, that's the way we want to follow. So for example, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam read his namaz, the followers at the time, they wanted to see, how does he read his namaz? Because if you want your prayers to fully be accepted, of course we want to see how the best of the best do it. We want to see how, the prophets do it, because they're the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the closest to Allah. So we want to see how they did it. So they saw how he read the Quran, how he fasted, how he, read his namaz, and they observed all these things. And so they wanted to see, of course, how he performed Hajj. And so Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, on the way, when he was leaving from the city of Medina, there was about 70,000 people had come with him from Medina to go perform the Hajj. And so, when they got there, they performed the Hajj, and this is the time, and then people learned the right way to do the Hajj from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They saw what he did. And so, after this, after performing the Hajj, now, during this entire time, the whole thing centers around the importance of having a successor. And so Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, at this time, he didn't have a successor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't inform him. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was waiting for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell him about, his successor. He didn't have anyone to take over after him. Now, what is important? Everyone has a successor. Wherever you look at the President of the United States, he is a vice president. You look at the Queen of England. She has, there's like 4 people in line, for the throne. There's the heir to the throne, and then there's after him, after him, after him. So it's important to have a successor, somebody to take over after you. So, we're saying these different worldly things, about the property in this world. But what about what about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? The religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger on this earth. Of course, he's going to have a successor, one of the most important person on this planet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to guide everyone. Of course, after him, what's going to be after him? Of course, they have to show something. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was waiting from the word from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so after performing this Hajj, now the narrations say different things. After performing this Hajj, they stopped in an area called Ghadeer, and it was kind of like a port. It was like an area that it was like a crossroads where people from different areas. This was the area where they would kind of split up. For example, if somebody's coming from Syria, if there's a couple Syrian Muslims, or Iraq, wherever they're going, this was the area that they would go their separate ways. It was like an airport. You know how you have your different airports. If you're meeting up with somebody, you go with a group for ziyarat, and you're coming from different areas. You meet up in the airport, and of course you go where you have to go. When you're coming back, you go back to the airport and you go your separate ways. So this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, he gave the revelation to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that this was the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him in Surah Ma'idah, verse 67, he says, O Messenger, deliver what has been revealed to you from your Lord. And if you do not, then you have not delivered his message. And Allah will protect you from the people. Surely Allah will not guide the unbelieving people. Now just look at this verse, one of the most powerful verses in the Quran. It's saying that, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ got this message. And if Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't deliver this message, he didn't deliver, the fact that all of these people, he didn't deliver his successor. He didn't say that Imam Ali ﷺ was his successor. Then everything he did would be for nothing. Teaching people about the namaz, Quran, how to fast, everything he taught would be for nothing. 23 years of preaching to the people, of delivering the message of Islam, of everything that he did would be for nothing. And so when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ got this, they gathered all the people. Now there's different narrations. Some of them say that there was about 90,000 people. The minimum it says was like 90,000 people, up until like 120,000 people. So we're talking about a lot of people here. Obviously today, there's a lot of, you can have, for example, through social media, this and that, you can connect with thousands of people across the world in a second. It's not like that, but we're talking about, the 10 years after, Hijrah. So what do they have? They just have word of mouth. So Prophet ﷺ, he told his followers he told them he wanted everybody to gather in this area. And so he told them, he said, tell the people who had already left, he said, tell them to come back. The people who had already left, went their separate ways, went to Medina, wherever they were going, he said, tell them to come back. And the people who were, still behind them, he said, wait, we're going to wait for them. And the point of this was he wanted everybody to hear this message. This message came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said the importance, how important this is, that if you don't deliver it, it would all be for nothing. So that's why he wanted everybody to hear this. He wanted to make sure that there was no doubt that this was the message. He wanted everybody to be there. And we're talking about, at the time, we're talking about, Arabia. We're talking about in the blazing hot sun. It was so hot outside. Everybody was so hot. They were wrapping their robes around their feet and around their, faces, trying to block themselves from the sun. And this is when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ delivered his sermon. And this was actually the longest sermon that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ ever delivered. It was a 3-hour sermon that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ delivered. And this is when Prophet Muhammad mentioned, many different things. He mentioned how, about how he's going to be going away soon, how his time has come, his time is coming very soon. He only has so much time left. I believe it was about 90 days or something after the event of Eid al-Ghadeer that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away. So he informed the people about this. And then, he brought Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he said, he asked the people, he said, do I not have authority over you? And they said, yes, you do. He said, he asked them, do I not know, am I not, Prophet was the messenger? And they said, yes, you are. So he said, whosoever I am the master of, he said, whosoever I'm the mullah of, Ali is the mullah of. And so this was the message. And after this, all of the people gathered around, like I said, 100,000 people, let's say about 100,000 people, they were all gathered around. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wanted them all to congratulate Imam Ali alayhi salam. And so he had all of them, they all went up to him and they all shook his hand. And this took a very long time. It took about, they were there, I think, about 3 days. They were there for a long time. And they all congratulated Imam Ali alayhi salam. And even the women that were there, they also congratulated Imam Ali alayhi salam. And of course, it's, how did they do that? What they did was, in order to, instead of course, you can't, men can't, shake hands with women, non-mahram. So what they did was they would put their hand, Imam Ali alayhi salam would put his hand in the water, and the women would also put their hand in the water. And so look at the extent that they went to. Look at the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to go to deliver this message. He wanted to make sure that it was clear, that everybody knew. Like I said, today we have social media, we have all these different things, but this was word of mouth. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made sure, by having everyone shake Imam Ali alayhi salam's hand, and by having everyone stop at this place of Ghadeer, inside of the, the blazing heat. And you can see with heat, the thing about heat is, when you're in this hot weather, it actually helps you to, when you're in extreme hot, you're in extreme cold, it actually helps you to remember something. It puts more emphasis in your brain. You remember it. I remember, when I was in, I went to Pakistan a couple years ago with my cousins, and we were at this, majlis. We went to a majlis, and it was like 120, it was like 115. It was something so hot. And I just remember, I was like, I was just, burning in the hot sun, and I just couldn't wait to get back into the car and turn on the AC. So these things put emphasis on you. So we see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set up the entire thing. They had to shake hands. Right after Hajj. And so, so this was the event of Eid al-Ghadeer. And this is the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to send. He wanted to send a guide to the people. Because after the death of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would leave this world, who were the Muslims going to follow? Who would be the successor of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? So through this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us what we have as a guide. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the Quran, and He gave us the Ahlul Bayt, He gave us the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course that was Imam Ali. And from Imam Ali alayhi salam and Bibi Fatima, we have Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. And through that we have our 12th Imam, may Allah hasten his appearance, who's going to come and who's going to, set everything straight. And he's going to put the world how it should be, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted it to be. And he's going to take out all the injustice in the world. And everything wrong, all the problems will be solved. And so this is where it all started. It all started with Imam Ali salam being announced as Prophet Muhammad sallam's successor. Now, here we have the event of Eid al-Ghadeer. But of course, as we know, like I said, it's the most important Eid. It's the most, the one that we have to look at, the one we have to celebrate, the one we have to, realize how much is being celebrated in the heavens, and how much we can do to even acknowledge, even understand. In order to fully get the impact, we have to understand what happened. But like I said, unfortunately, Eid al-Ghadeer isn't the most, it's not one of the most well-known Eids, because there's different debates, you can say, about Eid al-Ghadeer, and that is because the two major schools of thought, of course, the Sunnis and the Shias, there's different opinions about it. For example, there's some people who say that Eid al-Ghadeer, they acknowledge the event of Ghadeer, they know what it is, but they have a different interpretation of it. And there's different interpretations of Eid al-Ghadeer, and one is that, there's a couple of them, but one is that, of course, Imam Ali alayhi salam, because the word Mullah, like Prophet Muhammad said, whosoever I am the Mullah of, Ali is the Mullah of. The word Mullah in Arabic has about 23 different meanings, 26 different meanings. It has a lot of different meanings. It means a lot of things. And one of those meanings is the word friend. So one of the thinking, one of the ideas that people have, or one of the points they bring is that they're saying that Prophet Muhammad was merely stating that whosoever I am the friend of, Ali is the friend of. And of course, people can, have their different, opinions. But we see that idea doesn't really make sense, because Prophet Muhammad, he asked the people, he said, don't I have more authority over you than you have over yourselves? And so, we have to look at the context. That's what happens, in English language or any language. When you don't know a word, when there's a word that has two meanings. Like, for example, obviously in English, you think of the main ones, aunt. There's aunt, as in your relative, and there's aunt as in an aunt. If you're just reading a thing and it says, however, it's spelled and says aunt, and you pronounce it as the other one, it doesn't make sense. And there's other words like that, so you have to look at the context. And so Prophet Muhammad is saying, in the context of this, he's saying, whosoever I am, do I have authority over you? And so authority you can relate to being the master. And also you look at, for example, if it was that way, if it was, me and Imam Ali Islam are friends, which is great, of course they are friends. So why then would, they all have to go and congratulate Imam Ali Islam? Why would Prophet Muhammad make such an emphasis on having them congratulate Imam Ali Islam? So these are the two different, viewpoints about the day of Eid al-Ghadeer. And so, inshallah, we have to look at this, and we have to take everything into account, because, in order to fully understand, you have to look at different viewpoints. In order to fully understand, something that happens, an event, or, whatever's going on, we have to look at it from both sides. And so I have my side, if somebody else has another side. We have to look at it through the main point, which is the point through Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to show us. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to show us is that, the importance of the Ahlul Bayt and the importance of having that leadership, having the people that we can follow. And so when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I completed your religion, that the religion is complete now, the religion of Islam is complete, that shows us that through Imam Ali alayhi salam, we now have all the Imams, we now have the people that we can follow in order to get to that next level, in order to get to that next stage with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, like I said, after the speech, everyone congratulated Imam Ali alayhi salam. And like I said, 100,000 people congratulated Imam Ali alayhi salam. All the companions of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the people from different countries were there, and they all congratulated him. And then after, there was a man by the name of Harith ibn Numan al-Fahri. And what he did was, he came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the day of Ghadeer. The news started to spread. And like I said, the news spread by word of mouth. We're talking about, 1,400 years ago, 15, a long time ago. And so the way to spread the news was by word of mouth. And so you have 100,000 people, all from different areas, all, talking together, all hearing this message. So of course, word spread very quickly. And so this man, he went to Medina and he went to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he told him, he said, you commanded to testify that there is no God but Allah, and we obeyed you. He said, you commanded us to read 5 prayers a day. We obeyed you. You commanded us to, observe fast in Ramzan. We obeyed you. And he said, then you commanded us to offer pilgrimage, and we obeyed you. But still you are not satisfied with all of this, and you raised your cousin by your hand and imposed him upon us as our master by saying, Ali is the Mullah of whom I am the Mullah. Is this imposition from Allah or from you? Now imagine asking, obviously to us it's like, we look at this guy, we say, what's going on here? But imagine, just imagine asking the Prophet of God, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, asking him, is this from you or is this from Allah? As if, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if, they're two separate things. Like, Allah subhanahu, like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was appointed by, a jury, and, they agreed he was a man for the like a president, or, something like that. Like I can imagine somebody asking that to, some president or something. Like, hey, was this your decision, or, did everybody agree on this? So imagine asking that to, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam answered, in a respectful way, because it is the Prophet of, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, it's from Allah. And he said, on hearing this, the man turned back and proceeded towards his she-camel, saying, O Allah, if what Muhammad said is correct, then fling on us a stone from the sky and subject us to severe pain and torture. My friend, that's not the right way to go. I wonder what happens. I'm really genuinely interested to see what happens. I'm on the bottom of my seat. This man is saying, he's praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying that if this is from you, if what the Prophet of God, if what your messenger said is from you, the messenger delivers messages. So if this message is from you, then, let a rock fall on me and kill me. So, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'd give this a negative 35. So let's see what happens to this guy. So after that, after he makes this prayer, he had not yet reached his she-camel when Allah, who is above all defects, flung a stone that struck him on the head, penetrated his body, and passed out through his lower body and left him dead. It was on, so the guy didn't even have a chance to move his foot to go towards his camel, and he got struck with a rock and he died right there. So, just look at, how this man was questioning not only, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he was questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is obviously, a horrible sin. This guy got what he deserved, of course. And so this is even mentioned in the Quran. This, what happened in this story actually was mentioned in the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the questioner questioned about the punishment to fall. For the disbelievers, there is nothing to avert it from Allah, the Lord of the Ascent. And so this man was, struck by a rock, questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Questioning, is this from you? You made your cousin. And this was kind of the thinking at the time. The thinking was, and this is why there was a lot of, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in Surah Ma'idah, verse 67, this is when he says, and Allah will protect you from the people. And the reason this is because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu knew that if he told the people that, of course they knew he was the Prophet, that when he announces it's his successor, sorry, I have braces, it's a little difficult to talk right now. When he announced his successor, he said that, that they're going to think, he's making his cousin the successor, of course. So, of course, this man was of the thinking of some of the people of the time that Prophet Muhammad was just making, his successor his cousin. His friend, that's his cousin, that's why he's doing it. But of course we know that that's not the reason, and that this was appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. And so this is what we have. So, like I mentioned, we have to be aware of this. We have to try to be, educated, try to do as much research as we can, and inshallah keep learning about our religion of Islam. Keep trying to see what else we can learn, and keep expanding our knowledge. Because of course there's so many things that we don't even know about. There's so many things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that maybe we don't know. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left everything out for us, wide open. He's made it, He's assorted it into perfect order. It's right in front of us. All we have to do is to look at it. And we have an easy path, straight to, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, we have a straight path to heaven. So this is what we have to do. And this is one of the days, Eid al-Ghadeer, one of the most important Eid that shows us what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan was. It shows us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this was the day that everything came together. The religion of Islam came together. And so we can't do everything in parts. We can't have one thing but not do another. We have to see it as a whole. We have to have the entire picture. For example, fasting, reading namaz, these different things. You can't have one or the other. You have to do Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to do something, you have to do it. We can't just read our namaz and then eat haram and skip all these things. We can't just eat halal and then not read our namaz. It all has to come together. And so today we learn, we see the full picture that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried to show for us. So inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to, learn more about these special events. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends our 12th Imam to come soon. So basically, Eid al-Ghadeer, we see that, we talked about a couple of different things. We talked about how the setting around which Prophet Muhammad went, how he made Prophet Muhammad Imam Ali the successor. We saw how, the different viewpoints on the day of Eid al-Ghadeer and some of the different things people say, and we saw both sides of the coin. And of course we saw how Prophet Muhammad how this message to make Imam Ali the successor came straight from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to remember these very important days. Now inshallah we're going to be doing Allahumma kulli walika for the safety and protection of our 12th Imam, and inshallah we're all helpers of our 12th Imam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hassan صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجل. Thank you everyone who joined us today on today's program. Inshallah, everyone has a great Eid al-Ghadeer. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Khuda Hafiz.